Shoujo protagonists, this is internet personality Vangelus, and ThreeZero sent over a review copy of another fresh MDLX piece, and this one isn't a Transformer. This is Dango from the new series Kokone Link, which currently only exists as a 5-chapter semi-visual novel online, with a CG animation clip or two that primarily revolve around the release of this toy. As far as I can tell, this figure is a 1-to-1 scale representation of Dango, a robotic keychain given to Orihashi Kokone for her birthday. I skimmed a chapter and a half before writing this, and it seems there are giant alien monsters and an Uncle Ben style scene with Kokone and her dad. It all gives me the impression of something that intends to be seen in manga or anime form like a year from now. Whatever the case, it did result in an action figure. Let me get one thing out of the way up front. Y'all keep saying this looks like Drossel from Fireball had a kid with X, Y, or Z. Stop it. My Oshi-sama wouldn't just have a keychain with anybody, let alone the kinds of Kimoi Gomi names I've seen you untrue Yatsura fake fans throwing around. Anyway, Dango is definitely adorable, with a light seasoning of chibi aesthetic and a small sprinkle of menace in the unavoidable gaze of its automaton optics. The primary white finish is glossy as heck, with crisp metallic gold playing off all of that bounced and reflected light. Matte gray and desaturated blue finish off a fairly regal color layout, and the clean delivery on this piece brings the first wave of expected ThreeZero polish. Beneath the removable forehead plate, one can find a removable screw. Eventually, you get access to a battery compartment, and if you load a pair of AG1 batteries in there, not included, and close it all back up, then a solid, if oddly awkward press of the forehead jewel will activate an LED that lights up said jewel, and attempts to light up the eyes as well. The effect definitely plays better to human eyes than camera optics, but regardless, I rather wish this had been 2 light sources focused behind the eyes, rather than one focused behind the forehead. While Dango begins with its little hands clenched into little fists, there are a number of hand swaps included. All of these are a simple MDLX ball socket pop and swap, though the small size can make this a bit fiddlier than on the Transformers releases prior. First, there are a pair of open hands, delivering the precise opposite emotion from the pair of fists we began with. Next, there's a right hand in a V-sign posture, which is frankly adorable. Following that, a right hand in a thumbs-up posture, perfectly positioned to point at its bearer. Finally, there is another full pair of hands, this time designed to grip. Dango only comes with one thing to grip, and that's its included solid metal keychain accessory. This thing actually works, and can be screwed into a threaded hole in the back of Dango's head, entirely to replicate states of being such as, quote, hanging off of Kokone's backpack unassuming and limp, end quote. Be careful with this piece, as its screw peg is rather pointy, and if you force things, you might damage the plastic piece that it's invading. Also, don't be a clown and swing the thing around by the keychain. Would you want to be swung around by your head-mounted keychain? I don't think so. Dango does bear one more secret, accessed by pulling up on its little head ridge. This will reveal its battle mode. By extending the neck, hips, and knees, as well as separating the piece hanging off of Dango's head, along with opening the forearm pods, you will activate its combat form. I adore the automorph of the initial Mohawk pull, especially those angry eyelids, and I'm a fan of a self-contained transformation like this, even one on the more subtle ends, such as Dango's. Battle Mode Dango is probably the form a lot of you will perpetually leave it in, since it opens up the articulation and looks like it can throw hands, so guess what? Surprise! More accessories. There are 2 pairs of effect parts that can wedge into the revealed forearm blasters, 1 pair of yellow gunfire effects, and 1 pair of blue laser sword effects. These are peak finicky to install, and a key concept to know is that the pegs are both rectangular, not square, and have a slight slant at their base to match the barrel of the blasters. However, they're also soft plastic pieces going into hard plastic sockets that are built to retract, so when I say finicky, I mean finicky. Even though it's tiny, Dango's gotta stand up and live up to the MDLX name as far as articulation, and a lot of it's in there. There's like a ball socket neck, And then if you find that the rear thing is bumping into stuff, it's on a pair of unified extendable ball socket joints. Like you can see, they're actually sucking back into the skull piece, but you can jointly move them up to have this thing, you know, flap up and down out of the way, so you can get slightly wider range of neck articulation. A big selling point on this thing is that it's got articulated eyes, and they're individually, I believe, ball socket mounted, and the range is not massive, but it is kind of fun. It's just you can't get Dango to look extreme left, extreme right, not even really extreme up or extreme down, or extreme like the, but you can still do a couple little things. Like if you want to look, if you want to glance to one side, I think it's better just to like always have these kind of pushed in as much as possible for max cuteness. Move one out, and now, you know, kind of looking to one side. Anyway, the midsection here has also got a ball socket style joint, and there's even a little ab crunch. It's a little bit hard to tell that it's happening, but there is a separately moving piece. You can see there on the belly plate, it's opening and closing slightly. It's really hard to tell. And then there's a double ball barbell shoulder joint, a very small one, but there's still, as far as I can tell, die-cast structure to keep up the solidity and integrity of a lot of these ball sockets. A small bicep swivel, a little double-jointed elbow, ball socket wrists with a little bit of wiggle motion, but if you wiggle them too much, I find the hands do pop off more easily than the bigger MDLXs. Slightly limited ball socket, double ball barbell ball socket hips in here, in our normal mode, along with a very limited but usable knee joint and pretty decent ball socket foot connections for ankle wobble. So the articulation's alright, but you can open up the articulation a fair bit if you go into battle mode! So FYI, now that we're here, even with the lids slightly down, you still have enough access to articulate the eyes however you need to. You've still got access to all the joints, and you've got more access, like the neck. Now that it's popped up, it's a little bit easier to tell how much of a range it has got. I will say, though, this doesn't lock up here, it just holds, so it is kind of easy to start bumping this stuff up and down while you're going at it. It's got a very slight detent, but it's a bumpable detent. Now that they're free, and this thing's been split, these two things are on very wide ranges of motion because of those extendable ball socket joints. So they can double ball barbell their way into all kinds of circular motions, outward motions, billowing motions, etc. The midsection didn't really change at all, but I feel like now that the hips are out, it's a bit easier to see what's going on with the torso and how it is segmented. It's still not the easiest thing to represent because the range is not enormous on the segment, but you can just see there it's split open, it's closed, splits open. Yeah, the arms are more or less the same, even if you pop the pieces here up to deploy those. Nothing really changes in the articulation. The hips, now that they're down, is way more obvious motion. Now that you've extended the legs, the double knee joint is a lot more obvious. The only real problem with the articulation on Dango is that, and this is kind of feels silly to say, but it's true, the big head causes balance problems, because when you pose this little thing, it's very easy to find a really cool pose that feels like it should work, and then you're like, oh no, you should tilt the head back a bit, and then falls over. So, you kind of have to finesse things a bit. You have to use the limbs, the torso joint, the foot joint, and these things to sort of find your central balance again if you found a very cool pose, and then Dango starts falling over. Like, if you're doing this, then Dango's falling over. Oh, what if we billow these forward a little bit? Does that help? And it kind of helps. Unfortunately, it does often mean tilt the head down. But, as something that I could say is like maybe a bit of a prototype of that upcoming MDLX Mega Man, as far as a smaller MDLX, There's cool stuff going on here. Dango is just, like, I think the limit of how small the MDLX idea can go right now. Everything is so small that even though it's solidly built, it all feels like it's at its limits. My simple human strength with my thumbs occasionally bumps a hand off. My attempts to pose the thing, you know, get counterbalanced by the size of the head, etc. So, still very cool, but Mega Man having a smaller head makes me more confident how that smaller MDLX is likely to turn out. MDLX Dango from Kokone Link is a very neat little piece, especially as MDLX's first foray outside of the Transformers. It's also aggressively affordable for the line, retailing for just under $40 US, with early bird offers that place it closer to just over $30 US. For the most part, it is adorable and endearing, without even touching on the slightly sparse new franchise it's a part of. If you like the look of this thing and its features, you'll probably enjoy messing with one, and hey, if Kokone Link really takes off, then this is a 1-to-1 scale representation of what appears to be one of the main characters. I say one of because I'd swear I saw art of 2 more robots similar to Dango somewhere. But here are some caveats. While the build quality feels sturdy for the most part, especially with the die-cast metal internal structure, this is such a small piece that it runs into the simple physics of its dimensions, which is to say you've got to be a little gentle with it, while also being firm when tugging the legs out for battle mode. And like I said, the balance of the figure can get a little funky between the tiny body, huge head, and large rear-mounted head flaps. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and if you've actually read the Kokone Link illustrated fiction that's out there as of this recording, let me know. In the meantime, big thanks to all my patrons and members for funding the installation of a keychain socket in the back of my skull. Sometimes you just want to hang off a big backpack. That's the world we live in right now.